we have a massive update coming directly from the Emirates this evening, confirming that the spectacular campaign for the Southeast Asian power duo has officially ended at the Abu Dhabi Open doubles tournament. Yet the atmosphere surrounding their exit remains incredibly optimistic. Let us take a moment to really break down the tape and analyze exactly what unfolded during that intense semi-final showdown featuring the dynamic pairing of Alexandra Eala and Janice Tjen. The two rising stars representing the Philippines and Indonesia respectively just faced a heartbreaking elimination in the doubles semi-finals at the prestigious Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open a short while ago. They went down in straight sets, dropping the match 6-4, 6-2 against the tournament's fourth-seeded doubles specialists Tereza Mihalikova of Slovakia and Great Britain's Olivia Nicholls. The battle on the court lasted for roughly 1 hour and 16 minutes. And believe me when I say, the level of competition was far tighter and more combative than the final scoreline would have you believe. However, there is a crucial piece of the puzzle that is flying completely under the radar, and, frankly, it is the one major factor that most tennis analysts are failing to highlight right now. These two young prodigies walked onto the court for this high-pressure match less than 24 hours after pulling off a monumental upset against the highly favored second-seeded team. I am talking about their stunning victory over Zhang Shuai and Cristina Bucsa, a formidable powerhouse team that boasts a combined 23 doubles titles and serious Grand Slam experience. Eala and Tjen did not just scrape by them. They completely dismantled that veteran pair with a score of 6-3, 6-3, making an incredibly difficult challenge look like a walk in the park. Consequently, when we assess this semi-final loss, we must acknowledge that the Southeast Asian tandem was operating on absolute fumes with their energy reserves depleted. We are looking at their third professional-level match within a punishing 48-hour window, a stretch that included a grueling singles quarterfinal for Eala against a top 15 ranked heavy hitter. That young athlete has been grinding through a non-stop gauntlet of competitive tennis without a single day of meaningful recovery time. Now shifting focus to the semi-final performance itself. In that opening set, they were absolutely holding their own and looking dangerous against the seasoned veterans. They were trading service games with impressive efficiency, going toe-to-toe in the rallies, and when the scoreboard read 4 games, all it felt like the set was there for the taking. Watching the live broadcast at that specific moment, you would have thought these newcomers were matching the fourth seeds shot for shot and handling the magnitude of the stage perfectly. Suddenly, Mihalikova and Nicholls showed exactly why they earned that seed, flipping a tactical switch and reeling off back-to-back games to steal the momentum and close out the set. They began aggressively targeting Tjen's second serve and poaching at the net to heap pressure on Eala, forcing errors with the kind of precision that only experienced tour veterans possess. They identified a slight tactical vulnerability and exploited it ruthlessly, holding their own serve comfortably before securing the decisive break to take the opener 6-4. The second set proved to be a much steeper mountain to climb as the experienced seeds surged out of the gates to establish a commanding 3-0 lead almost immediately. The British-Slovak combination started returning every ball with interest, keeping their depth incredible to completely neutralize the sharp net game that Eala and Tjen rely on to win points. To their immense credit, the Southeast Asian pair refused to wave the white flag, fighting back to get on the board and producing some truly electrifying reflex volleys at the net that brought the crowd to life. However, the deficit was simply too large to overcome, and the fourth seeds closed it out 6-2. Keep in mind, Mihalikova is now 28, and Nicholls is 32 years old in this 2026 season. Between the two of them, they possess 8 WTA doubles titles and currently hold world rankings of number 28 and number 26 respectively. That places them firmly in legitimate top 30 territory. These are not journeymen just filling a draw. They are elite full-time doubles specialists. They possess a mastery of positioning, court geometry, and closing strategies because they play this specific discipline week in and week out at the highest possible level. Contrast that level of specialization with Eala, who is now 21, and Tjen at 24, with their doubles rankings sitting significantly lower at 136 and 67 respectively. Furthermore, it is impossible to overstate the fact that this week in Abu Dhabi marked their very first tournament, competing together as a professional unit. Just imagine the difficulty of navigating a WTA 500 semifinal when you are still learning your partner's movement patterns and figuring out who takes the ball down the middle. In the complex discipline of doubles tennis building, that kind of intuitive chemistry usually requires months, if not entire seasons of repetition and practice. You need to instinctively know when your partner is crossing or who is covering the lob, yet these two improvised brilliantly to make such a deep tournament run on their first try. We also need to shine a spotlight on the fantastic nickname that has gone viral this week, the Sea Sisters. A clever play on Southeast Asia, this moniker was coined by the supportive crowd in the Middle East, and it perfectly encapsulates their chemistry and dynamic on the court. It represents a massive moment for regional sports, witnessing two athletes from the Philippines and Indonesia uniting to make serious waves on the global tour. Philippine tennis enthusiasts have been waiting decades for a generational talent like Eala, who can consistently challenge the elite roster of the WTA Tour. When you pair her finesse with the grit and determination of Janice Tjen, you get a combination that truly resonates with fans watching back home. This result was not just a participation trophy. This was a loud statement that Southeast Asian solidarity can produce world-class results against top-tier opposition. Consider the physical toll on Eala specifically, who has been effectively living out of a suitcase since the 2026 season began in early January. She fought through the brackets in Auckland, competed in the Kooyong Classic, and played the main draw at the Australian Open before arriving here. She even returned to Manila to compete in front of her home fans before immediately hopping on a plane to Abu Dhabi for this event. That is a schedule defined by constant jet lag, airports, and high-performance demands, all while doing double duty in both the singles and doubles draws here. In the singles bracket, she pushed the world number 11 Ekaterina Alexandrova to the absolute limit in a punishing three-set battle that drained her energy. Immediately after that physical war, she had to pivot mentally and physically to compete in the doubles semifinals alongside Tjen without a real break. Playing 3 professional-level matches in 48 hours is an immense request, especially when the competition is of WTA 500 caliber. Regardless of youth or elite fitness levels, the human body has limits, and physiological fatigue inevitably impacts reaction times and split-second decision-making. At this elite level, having fresh legs often decides the outcome, and unfortunately, the Sea Sisters simply ran out of runway this time around. Breaking news from the courts. This recent tournament campaign has been nothing short of earth-shattering for both athletes, signaling a massive evolution in their professional careers. Alexandra Eala has officially shattered her personal bests, skyrocketing to a career-defining singles ranking of number 45 globally. When you are sitting pretty at number 45, you are practically breathing down the necks of the elite top 30, and let me tell you, that changes the entire landscape. Jen is right there in the mix with her at number 47, which means both of these phenoms are climbing the ladder in sync, generating that unstoppable force that characterizes breakout stars in the 2026 season. Now, we absolutely need to discuss this doubles partnership because calling it a mere success does not do it justice. This was not just a functional pairing. It was a revelation that blossomed on the court in ways no analyst predicted this early in the game. They did not just beat. They completely took apart a second-seeded team that holds a combined 23 championship trophies between them. And keep in mind, they pulled this off at a high-stakes WTA 500 tournament, where the roster is absolutely loaded with doubles specialists. That is not luck, folks. That is a loud and clear declaration of war to the rest of the tour. What we saw out there was pure high-octane tennis, proving they belong under the bright lights. It was a clinic in court geometry, reading their opponent's aggressive plays before they even happened, and delivering surgical returns precisely when the heat was turned all the way up. The fact that they are pouring this much mental focus into the doubles bracket while simultaneously grinding day in and day out to break into the elite tier of singles competition shows one thing: they are dead serious about transforming into versatile all-court nightmares for their rivals. There is a solid reason why top-tier coaches push for this dual-track approach. Playing doubles essentially turbocharges your singles capabilities in a way that endless drilling from the baseline simply can never match. It forces you to hone lightning-quick reflexes up at the net, dramatically boosts your ability to predict shots, refines those delicate touch volleys, and significantly levels up your total awareness of the court dimensions. Stepping into the doubles lane makes you view the ball through an entirely fresh perspective. You start decoding microscopic shifts in body language, understanding exactly when to intercept a shot and how to defend against those impossible angles that usually leave the court wide open. Look at legends like Ash Barty. She utilized doubles as a strategic tool to remain razor-sharp and adaptable. It is not merely about snatching up a few extra ranking points. It is a fundamental pillar for holistic player development and staying battle-hardened for match play. Right now, Eala is already on a flight to Doha for the prestigious Qatar Total Energies Open, which gets underway on February 8th. There is absolutely no rest for the weary here. She is transitioning instantly from the high-pressure cooker of one WTA 500 event straight into the inferno of another major showdown. But this is precisely the type of grueling grind you have to embrace if you want to cement your status and smash through that invisible barrier to access the upper echelons of professional tennis excellence. In the unforgiving ecosystem of the WTA, momentum is the only currency that holds real value. Once you catch fire, you have to ride that surge, start piling up those wins, and before you realize it, you find yourself with a number next to your name as a seeded contender. Becoming a seed completely flips the script. Suddenly, you are skipping past the titans in the early rounds and locking down automatic entry into the most cash-rich tournaments on the annual schedule without the headache of qualifying rounds. That is the strategic maneuvering behind the scenes that casual fans often overlook. But the burning question, lighting up the forums right now, is simple. Are we going to witness the Sea Sisters unite on the same side of the net once more? Because let me be real with you, I am 100% bought in on this team. The chemistry was electric. From the very first toss, the outcomes spoke for themselves, and their on-court communication, hyping each other up, and coordinating movements at the net was nothing short of spectacular. Just visualize what they could pull off with a few more tournaments under their belts, developing an almost telepathic understanding of each other's footwork patterns and preferred strike zones. If they choose to double down and commit to a select string of upcoming events as a pair, and really solidify that tactical bond, they could evolve into a legitimate problem for the established seeded powerhouses. Look, it is completely normal to feel that sting of disappointment regarding how their recent run ended. I totally get that frustration. Nobody enjoys packing their bags in the semifinals, particularly when you are within touching distance of battling for the silverware. But we have to zoom out and appreciate the broader narrative unfolding here. We are talking about two young prodigies from Southeast Asia in their debut tournament as a tandem blasting their way to the Final Four of a WTA 500. A level of competition that sits just one rung below the Grand Slams and the massive WTA 1000 series. They managed to knock out the number 2 seeds, a duo with years of shared experience, and went toe-to-toe with seasoned veterans ranked in the top 30, all while fighting through physical fatigue and a brutal travel itinerary. That outcome is absolutely not a failure by any metric. That is a thunderous statement delivered to the entire tour. Eala and Tjen have effectively broadcasted to the global tennis world that Southeast Asia is here to play. This is no longer a solo narrative about one athlete shouldering the heavy expectations of an entire region. We are watching the rise of a region that is churning out fiercely competitive warriors capable of snatching victories at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. They are not just showing up to fill out the bracket. They are actively going to war against and defeating the premier doubles specialists on Earth. They are claiming significant wins and making deep runs into tournament draws, which is a monumental shift, especially for the trajectory of Philippine tennis. This evolution is absolutely gigantic. Eala is not merely surviving out there on the circuit, she is flourishing and leveling up right in front of our faces. She is demonstrating on a weekly basis that Filipino athletes can hold the line against the world's elite on the WTA Tour. And the most terrifying realization for her rivals, these girls are only just warming up. The Sea Sisters might have had their dream campaign cut short in Abu Dhabi, but let's keep it real. This feels like the prologue to an epic saga, not the final page. Mihalikova and Nicholls were simply the superior unit on that specific day. They carried that veteran savvy, they had the luxury of fresh legs, and they leveraged their years of partnership to gain the upper hand. They possessed that instinctual court awareness that is only forged through hundreds of matches side by side, and they nailed the pivotal points exactly when the stakes were highest. However, Eala and Tjen proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can trade blows with the heavyweights. They showcased the capacity to tweak their strategy mid-match to neutralize difficult opposition. They demonstrated they can lock down wins against higher-seeded, more experienced squads and handle the intense pressure cooker environment of a WTA 500 semifinal clash. So sure, the loss stings in the moment, but when you are in the business of constructing a legacy, which is precisely what both players are undertaking, you absorb the hard lessons and you bank those precious ranking points. Reaching the semifinals grants you a serious haul of points that elevates your standing, and you utilize that capital to keep driving forward toward breaking into the top 20. The next destination is Qatar for Eala, where she will aim to capitalize on this wave of success and continue stacking bricks on top of that career-high ranking. And hopefully at some point later in this 2026 season, we will witness this dynamic pair join forces again because, judging by the magic we just saw in Abu Dhabi, they are a force of nature that cannot be ignored.